They rolled their eyes the first time they saw her struggle through a single push-up on the dusty parade ground of Fort Bridger, Wyoming. Recruits clustered in uneven formation while Staff Sergeant Vaughn stalked the rows, barking cadence. When he pointed to Private Olivia Harris for the demonstration set, a few soldiers in Bravo Company already wore half smiles, sure she would belly flop again. She lowered herself, arms trembling, and halted 3 inches above the ground. Sweat rolled off the brim of her 8-point cap, dust clung to her chin, and for a breathless moment it looked like gravity would win. Someone in the rear whispered, "Anchor reporting for duty," and muffled laughs rippled out. She pushed, elbows locked, body rose in slow motion. Then on rep 2, her shoulders quivered and she face-planted. Vaughn's whistle shrieked, "Get up, Harris! Your grandma do better than that!" She climbed to her knees, eyes down, and reset without complaint. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that heroes come in the most unexpected forms, do not forget to subscribe. No one watching that July morning thought Olivia would last the week. Fort Bridger's high-altitude air punished lungs. The midday sun baked the parade square, and instructors took grim pleasure in turning fresh volunteers into lean operators. Olivia ranked near the bottom on initial fitness scores: 42 sit-ups, a 14-minute mile and a half, and exactly 2 correct push-ups. She stood 5'4", weighed maybe 120 pounds, and wore eyeglasses thick enough that Vaughn nicknamed her National Geographic. The frames fogged during sprints, making her swing wide and knock elbows with others. Nobody saw a soldier there. She looked like a college librarian who took a wrong exit and ended up under the boot of a drill sergeant. Yet something about her silence felt unusual. She never answered sarcasm with anger, only a small respectful nod. She never bragged about personal records. Nights in the barracks, she skipped card games and sat cross-legged on her bunk reading the same green pocket notebook. Once, Specialist Keegan noticed sketches inside, compass roses, elevation profiles, notes on pace count. He scoffed, calling it nerd math, and tossed it back. Olivia pocketed the notebook, still silent. The second week began with rucksack marches through sagebrush flats under relentless sun. 50 recruits slogged 7 miles in full gear. Vaughn set a punishing pace, barking that slow feet mean body bags. Olivia lagged 40 yards behind, boot laces slapping loose, pack bumping her spine with each step. Private Torres muttered that she would time out and save them all from extra weight. But Mile 4 delivered an unexpected shift. Vaughn called a 5-minute water check, and troopers dropped packs. Olivia unclipped her straps, retied both boots, pulled a black elastic brace from her pocket, and cinched it under her right kneecap. When the march resumed, her stride changed. She shortened her steps, leaned forward from the ankles, arms swinging in perfect rhythm. Within half a mile she passed Torres, then Keegan, then even Private Lacey, the platoon's unofficial rabbit. Wind whooshed past her ears and her feet drummed a steady cadence on the gravel, like a metronome set to 180. Recruits stared. Vaughn noticed. By mile 7, Olivia walked directly behind the guidon bearer, breathing slow, sweat soaking the back panel of her pack in a neat dark square. When Vaughn dismissed the formation, Torres stalked over. "Thought you were gonna die back there, library girl." Olivia shrugged, pacing. "That's all." Vaughn overheard, raised an eyebrow, and said nothing. That night Torres lay awake 2 bunks away, listening to metal parts clicking softly. He rolled over and saw Olivia kneeling on the floor with a red headlamp muted low. She disassembled her M4 in seconds, slid the bolt group onto a rag, wiped carbon, reassembled, cycled, checked function, then broke it down again. She did this 10 times with mechanical calm. Torres mumbled, "You trying to win a speed trophy?" She whispered back, "Trying not to freeze when it matters." He grunted and rolled away. Day 15 introduced basic marksmanship. Vaughn paired recruits by last name order. Harris and Keegan shared lane 6. Keegan cracked jokes about Olivia's thick lenses fogging her sights. On the 0 range, her first 3-shot group landed a foot low and left. Vaughn shook his head. Keegan shot 8-inch groups, but Olivia's second group tightened to 4 inches. She adjusted the front sight post a half turn and whispered something that sounded like wind. 1 o'clock quarter value. Shot group 3 punched a cloverleaf inside the 4-centimeter circle. Vaughn raised binoculars, frowned, called her forward. She knelt, rifle grounded. He flipped her data card. It was filled top to bottom with wind drift tables and holdover values far beyond recruit curriculum. Small handwriting precise like drafting lines. "Where you learned this?" he asked. She answered, "My stepmother taught land navigation. I like math." Vaughn snorted, but recorded her score as expert, the first in Bravo Company that morning. The whispers changed pitch. Some recruits still mocked. Others grew cautious. Keegan stopped calling her National Geographic. Instead, he asked, "You some kind of mathlete?" She answered that she studied mechanical engineering for 2 years before enlisting, then changed the topic. At Chow Hall 3, Sergeant First Class Riley, Senior Training NCO, and former Long-Range Reconnaissance Platoon Sergeant, reviewed scoreboard sheets. He circled Harris's name and scooped mashed potatoes absent-mindedly. Later, he pulled Vaughn aside, asking if the girl was trouble or talent. Vaughn shrugged, said she nearly cried during push-ups, but outshot half the platoon. Riley instructed Vaughn to keep an eye. Week 3 erupted with night navigation lanes. Recruits moved in fire teams through sagebrush gullies toward glowing chem lights representing objectives. Harris's team followed Keegan's compass headings. After checkpoint 2, the chem lights vanished behind rising ground, and the moon ducked behind storm clouds. Keegan guessed wrong at a fork. They bushwhacked for 30 minutes and ended in a box canyon. Panic crept in. Radios crackled static. Olivia asked for the map. Keegan hesitated, then handed it over. She crouched, red lens flickering across contour lines, measured slope angles by thumb, and declared the canyon an uncharted erosion cut paralleling the main draw. She pointed to a notch above them. "That saddle leads north by northeast to checkpoint 3. Keegan muttered something about guesswork. Olivia produced her notebook, skimmed previous pace counts, and said the team was 400 meters off course. They climbed the notch, scrambled over basalt, and on the far side saw a faint green glow half a kilometer away. They reached the checkpoint 11 minutes before Nanfucio's closed timing. Staff Sergeant Riley stood by the marker. He checked names, frowned when he saw Harris delivering the grid reading instead of Keegan, and wrote a note on his clipboard. The next morning, Bravo Company mustered for PT and drizzle. Riley introduced a new instructor, Captain Nathan Sloan, a Green Beret from 5th Special Forces Group, assigned temporarily to evaluate integration protocols. Sloan wore the distinct rifle Green Beret, a subdued Special Forces patch on his combat blouse, and carried the quiet intensity of soldiers who have lived under different rule books. The platoon buzzed at the sight. Green Berets rarely mingled with basic training recruits. Sloan observed from the sidelines for 2 days, saying little. He watched push-ups, ruck marches, weapon drills, never commenting. On day 3, he requested a live-fire urban lane demonstration. Vaughn volunteered Squads 1 and 2. Harris belonged to Squad 2 under Corporal Morgan. They received simunition M4s, blank adapters replaced with paint rounds. The mission: clear 4 plywood buildings, retrieve a hostage dummy, and exit. Instructors peppered windows with paintball turrets and remote pop-up mannequins. Squad 2 entered Building 1 on schedule, stacked correctly. But inside, Morgan miscalled a corner, and paint rounds stitched his vest. He screamed, "Hit!" stepped aside. Chain of command fell to Harris, the senior private by roster, though hardly respected. Vaughn radioed to abort. Harris keyed her mic, voice calm, "Negative, continuing mission." Silence on net. Sloan watched from Overwatch Tower, arms folded. Harris tapped Torres to breach door 2. She whispered directions like a script, clearing sectors with surprising authority. Room by room they progressed. At Building 3, an instructor triggered a booby-trap flashbang. Keegan froze, eyes watering. Harris grabbed his plate carrier, yanked him behind cover, and shouted bounce angles over crackling simfire. They reduced the threat, moved forward, and located the hostage dummy in 5 minutes. X-File route came under crossfire from 2 hidden paint guns. Harris ordered smoke, counted wind drift aloud, and lobbed grenades high arc. Smoke spread perfect screen. Squad sprinted the final 50 meters. Stopwatch stopped at 11 minutes, second fastest that cycle, with Harris's team missing only 1 shot zone. Vaughn wrote command potential beside her name. Captain Sloan requested an informal after-action review. 20 recruits gathered under camo netting. Sloan asked each soldier what they learned. When he reached Harris, she spoke softly about tempo, angles, and mentorship. Sloan's eyes narrowed with interest. After the briefing, he pulled Vaughn aside. Who was she? Vaughn explained the weak push-ups, the math notebook, the Nightland nav correction, nothing more. Sloan nodded, face unreadable. Later that evening, Sloan rode his jeep to headquarters and accessed personnel files. Olivia Harris's pre-enlistment packets showed standard, no prior service. However, her next of kin listed Dr. Evelyn Harris, an aerospace engineer and retired Air Force lieutenant colonel who once designed inertial navigation software. There was also a sealed letter from an Army chaplain recommending Olivia for resilience consideration, citing undisclosed personal loss. Sloan closed the file unsatisfied. Week 4 brought the Crucible, a 48-hour gauntlet of obstacle courses, forced marches, memory problems, and sleep deprivation. Recruits navigated through darkness, waded icy rivers, carried logs in teams. By hour 23, rain dumped sheets, turning dirt roads into slick ribbons. At checkpoint 5, Staff Sergeant Vaughn saw Olivia shuffle, shoulders slumped. He read vital signs, considered sending her to med tent. She insisted she was fine. Vaughn allowed her to continue, but marked her roster. Midnight found Squad 2 trudging along a ridgeline road. Wind howled, flashlight beams danced across mud. Suddenly, Private Keegan slipped on wet shale, ankle twisting. He screamed. Squad formed perimeter. Their radio refused to transmit through the storm. Harris knelt, checked Keegan's joint, suspected sprain. She slung his pack over her own, helped him stand, and looped an arm over his shoulder. The next checkpoint was 2 kilometers downhill. The squad moved slowly, Olivia carrying 70 pounds plus her own load while guiding Keegan. Rain whipped their faces. At the checkpoint, a medic confirmed sprain and evacuated Keegan. Harris continued without breaking stride. At dawn, the Crucible concluded with Victory Hill, a steep 200-meter ascent culminating at a rock slab where instructors waited. Recruits staggered upward. Olivia reached the base dead last, legs shaking. Vaughn shouted encouragement and mild threat. She steadied breathing, placed foot after foot, arms pumping like pistons. Halfway up, her left boot heel tore. She removed the boot, tied the lace around the sole as temporary strap, and continued. Crowds of earlier finishers cheered. She crossed the line 15 minutes behind the lead, but still within standards. Instructors handed her the unit patch. She collapsed in the mud, laughing under her breath for the first time. Captain Sloan stepped forward. Boot edges neatly shined despite the terrain, and in full view of Bravo Company snapped to rigid attention. He raised his right hand in a perfect salute directed at Olivia Harris, sitting on the ground, caked head to toe in red Wyoming clay. Gasps cut through the cheering. Even Vaughn froze mid-sentence. Olivia blinked confusion, struggled to stand, wobbled slightly, then returned the salute, palm out, fingers tight, eyes forward. Sloan held the gesture for 3 seconds, dropped his hand, turned, and walked away. The hill went silent, except for wind. Later rumors spread like grass fire. Some recruits claimed Harris had saved Sloan's brother years ago. Others said she decoded enemy transmissions during an internship. Nobody knew. Harris said nothing. The respect dynamic shifted overnight. The nickname National Geographic died. People started calling her ma'am, half joking, half sincere. She asked them not to, but they kept at it until Vaughn issued counseling statements for fraternization. Graduation loomed 2 weeks away. Uniforms became sharper. Cadets practiced drill and ceremony. Harris still struggled with push-ups. Vaughn found her after chow doing sets behind the motor pool. He asked why someone who could ruck faster than most still failed simple upper body exercises. She explained quietly that after a cycling accident years ago, she fractured her sternum. Minor, healed, but pressure on certain angles caused pain, not weakness. Vaughn nodded, told her requalifying at minimum would suffice, then added, "Your notebook, I want to see those elevation formulas used in the company nav course next cycle." She smiled, rare expression. Days before graduation, Colonel Sharon Daniels, post commander, requested final peer evaluations. Recruits wrote anonymous feedback. Harris received highest leadership potential among peers. Vaughn's final counseling summary read, Private Harris entered with significant physical deficits, but proved unmatched resilience, expert marksmanship, advanced navigation, and command under stress. Recommend immediate consideration for officer candidate school. Command chain signed off. Graduation morning dawned clear. Mountains wearing fresh snowcaps. Families filled aluminum bleachers. Brass polished. Recruits marched in crisp columns. Olivia's step synced perfectly. During awards portion, Colonel Daniels presented top PT, top marksman, and honor graduate to usual suspects. Then she paused, scanning note card, and announced a special recognition for exemplary adaptability and leadership under extreme duress. She invited Private Olivia Harris forward. Gasps from bleachers as small, polished figure marched center stage. Captain Sloan, now wearing Class A uniform with chest of subdued rose, stepped to the podium. He told the crowd a short story about a recruit, underestimated by everyone, who hauled a comrade across storm terrain and refused to quit. He never named Olivia. He simply ended with true strength sometimes whispers. Then he turned, faced Harris, and executed a formal salute. The entire graduate formation followed. The bleachers erupted in applause. Harris returned salute, red face flushed under garrison cap brim. After ceremony, recruits mingled with families. Staff Sergeant Vaughn handed Harris a sealed envelope. Inside, orders assigning her to the Army Mountain Warfare School for an advanced land navigation course en route to Officer Candidate School. At the bottom, Captain Sloan had penned a note. Maps change, grit does not. Lead on. That evening, Olivia found a quiet corner of the bus station waiting for transport to her next duty. Keegan limped over on crutches. "You carried me when I was dead weight," he said. "Thank you." He held out the same green notebook she always guarded. "Found this on your bunk, thought you should keep writing." She opened to the first blank page and wrote 4 words. "Begin as underestimated, always." She glanced at her wristwatch, adjusted the loose bootlace still knotted around her battered left heel, then boarded the bus under a sky turning copper and pink across the Wyoming plains, ready to map the unknown roads ahead.